Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of KneeToKnee. I'm Mark Marrott, and today we're diving into something that affects all of us, but nobody really talks about. How incredibly hard it is to maintain deep friendships as adults. My guest today is Joel Steadman, and full disclosure, Joel and I have been friends for over 20 years. He's the guy who hired me 2 decades ago, and somehow, through all the chaos of life, we've stayed close. But there's one thing that shocked the both of us. In 20 years, we've probably only spent about 50 hours together outside of work, and yet our friendship is rock solid. How is that possible? Well, in this conversation, Joel and I get really honest about what actually makes friendships last. We talk about grace and why it's the most important ingredient in any lasting relationship. We dive into research showing it takes 200 hours to build deep friendships and why that's nearly impossible for busy adults. We explore how going through hard things together can speed up that timeline dramatically. But most importantly, we talk about the one thing you can do today that could save a friendship you thought was lost. If you've ever felt guilty for not being a good enough friend, or if there's someone who's been on your mind that you keep meaning to reach out to, this episode is for you. So let's get into it, and let's get knee to knee with Joel. Welcome to another episode of Knee to Knee. I'm excited to have with us today, Joel Steadman has agreed to return once again. And so thank you, Joel, for coming on. Sure appreciate it.
It's an absolute privilege.
For those of you that have not known before, we've actually had Joel on 2 or 3 different episodes talking about a variety of things. But Joel and I go back about 20 years when Joel was the guy who ultimately hired me for a job. And then we stayed friends now for 20 years, working for different companies, working for the same companies, those kind of things. So the focus of today, what I'd really love to dive into, and this is what I asked Joel on for, is how do we, it's kind of another how-to, how do we maintain friendships and relationships over the long haul with the ups and downs and things like that? Because as adults, that's a lot more challenging, I would think. I don't know if you agree with that, Joel.
Yeah, I really do, actually. And all the more important, I don't know that we give it as much credit as it deserves to maintain relationships outside of kind of a partner relationship as we age along the way.
Yeah, I think that is so true. I mean, having that ability to go to lunch, Joel and I end up going to, often the place we choose is a place in Lehi, Utah called Strap Tank. And we've gone there a couple of times for lunch and always enjoyed that time together. So Joel, let me ask as we kind of get the ball rolling today in our conversation, what do you see as a couple of the key things to be able to maintain a relationship with, a friend, whether you've known them a long time or reconnect? What would be a couple of key points that you find important?
Yeah, look, it's hard for those of us who have families and children or just extended families. Life has these seasons where it's very, very busy, and then it's a little less busy, and then it's not very busy at all. And so the difficult part is maintaining those friendships, those deep friendships during those younger years when your life is just really busy with just survival. And so you have to be kind of thoughtful. For me, I have just a handful of friends who have stuck by me. So the first thing I'm going to say, one of the biggest key points in my opinion is grace.
Okay.
I feel like you are one of my dear friends, and I only have a couple other dear friends. It's ironic that we're having this conversation. Same. I have a son-in-law who's in the process of losing his father at a young age. And so that always brings a lot of thoughts about what if, right? I was thinking last night, not in anticipation of this call, I thought, who would be my pallbearers that weren't my boys? And I thought, Mark Marrott, James Perkins, Paul Miller, and Josh Bennett. These are people who have given me grace throughout the years to be my friends still, the times when I don't return a phone call or have to cancel a lunch. And so I think one of the most important things of a true friendship is the other person is willing to give grace to the friend to say, it's okay that their life is busy right now. We're still really good friends. And
right.
And when we see each other, we could go 6 months, 12 months and see each other for lunch or something and give a big hug. And we're just like right back in that moment of as if we were at lunch the week before. And so, in my opinion, and I can only reference it for my life personally, I wouldn't have any friends. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not even being facetious. I wouldn't have any friends if my dear friends didn't give me grace along the way to just know Joel's just in a busy moment of his life. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't care for me. He wouldn't stop everything if something that if you needed him, he would stop everything. He would pause every busy thing going on in his life. But I think that's the most important thing, Mark. I really do. I think it's the friend who just truly doesn't hold it against you. And because at least for me, the ones who do, I just move them out of my life because I hate feeling so guilty that I'm not a good friend,
true.
right? And so that to me is key. That's just for my life. I'm one of those people. I wouldn't be here on this call if you hadn't just given me so much grace over the years of, man, this dude never returns my calls, you know?
Well, that's not true. That's not true. You do return calls.
But there was a time years ago that I was busy and I didn't. And I've definitely felt that guilt, but I knew that it'd be okay. That when we talked again, you and I just be like right back to as if we talked the day before. I think if you want to be a great friend as an adult friend, you got to give a lot of grace to appreciate that people's lives are just busy and complicated. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I think, and that goes to, you and I were talking before we started a little bit about Mel Robbins. In one of her latest books, she talks about how it takes 200 hours of time with somebody to build, if I remember correctly. So it's 200 hours to build a deep connection or to create a connection with somebody that can last. And she talks about the difference of childhood, how that's super easy because you're out on the street all summer long playing football or whatever. It is 200 hours by the time the summer's over. Great, right?
Exactly.
But as adults, we both have things, and you and I both have experienced, you're traveling, I'm traveling. Okay, now we can't connect this week. Let's try another time. And so that 200 hours, if I'm understanding and remembering that correctly, that's a real challenge to accomplish as an adult.
Yeah.
So how do we
also, I got to pimp it. I read Let Them over the break. And if anybody on this has not read Let Them, you got to read that book.
Great book.
It's life-changing.
Oh my gosh. It is. It really, really is. It's, I have a handful that's actually been added to my first of the year books. So
it's so simple and so good. It's amazing how
if you haven't read Let Them, you need to read Let Them. It's a great book. And that's where she talks about this 200 hours is in that particular book. And so what I'm wondering though is, and this is really a curiosity on my part, can we circumvent that? Can we shorten that time period as adults? Because you and I, in all honesty, Joel, I don't think you and I have spent 200 hours, just you and I, in the 20 years we've known each other.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. We might be creeping up on 150.
Maybe. Yeah, that's what
we have to take out working hours. If we take out working hours, we're in big trouble.
We have like 30.
I mean, I can give you an opinion on that.
No, please do.
Friends who go through hard things together expedite that time. If you think about, you and I have gone through some really hard things together. If I think about my closest friends, each one of them, whether it's been my crisis or their crisis, that webbed us together, so to speak, much more quickly.
100% agree with you.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I look back and, mine obviously was the accident, but you've had your own things throughout time too.
Yeah, been very ill.
Been very ill.
Stick close to me when I was super ill.
My favorite, in all honesty, my favorite is from Mindy. Mindy is Joel's wife. And not long after I had the accident, Joel was skiing up at Sundance. Do you remember this, Joel?
Yeah.
And you crashed and tore your shoulder up.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. Only because my name is a curse word.
Tore my shoulder up on Christmas Eve.
Was it Christmas Eve? I didn't know that.
Christmas Eve. Yeah, that was, look, I can be super authentic about that. The first surgery didn't go great. I had a couple other surgeries, got addicted to pain meds and had a tough go coming off of those for the longest days of my entire life, just being so sick. And then the Ambien, had to wean off the Ambien. It was the longest 11 months of my young life at the time. And man, I had my friends stick by me. But
Well, I will let you know that Mindy created my name as a 4-letter word. She kept telling, if I remember correctly, Joel, she kept telling you, well, Mark doesn't complain. My gosh, don't use me that way.
she used that all the time. And I actually started with that, and then I'm like, screw it. I don't care if Mark complains or doesn't complain. I'm in a lot of pain over
Oh
here.
no, I do.
That's true. She did use you. It's funny you remember that. She was always like, think of other people. I'm like, but I'm
I
not
don't want
thinking
to.
of other people.
When you're in that situation, you don't want to, right? I mean, it's just like I gotta. Yeah, it's hard to look outside when you're in
But
those
that's when your friends
situations.
step up, right? Like that's when
Exactly.
your friends step up. I had a couple visits. You were one of them, of people who just popped in because I wouldn't have otherwise accepted the visits. And I was just in a dark, depressed place, not healing. Nothing was working. And I didn't even know I was addicted to pain meds. Mindy and my doctor had an intervention with me. It's kind of funny
Oh, I
because
didn't.
I was so furious at them about it. I said, oh, you two are in cahoots here. And I'm like, I have no problems. And I said, I won't take another one. And my doctor's like, that's not a good idea. And I said, I literally will not put another one in my mouth. And I'm lucky that I was able to do it. It was 4 days of nausea and vomiting, and
Yeah.
Mindy 24 hours a day putting cold compresses on my head. I was able to immediately say goodbye to it. But boy, my sympathy changed dramatically for people
Yeah.
who battle it. Holy cow. It was brutal. I was lucky. I hadn't been too far down the path that I could do it by myself. But it was tough.
Yeah, that can be. I've known several people that really struggled, because those
Me
can
too.
be so
Yeah.
problem. It can be such a big problem. So, and you brought up one of those talking points that we mentioned was, being able to deliberately choose to maintain a bond. And
Yeah.
I think that is a piece of it that has to be there, from both sides. You can't just have one person, she's just not that into you or whatever. He's not that
Yeah,
into you or whatever.
exactly.
You have to have both people truly saying, hey, this is important. And I think between the downside of what you were just talking about and those people that reached out to you, and I had those as well. And I think we all do, right?
Yeah, we do.
That is the dog in the background.
I was wondering who was playing the tambourine. That's fantastic.
No, that was we have 2 little Shih Tzu poodles.
The joys of
And
life, man.
and they're both in my office with me right now, and one of them decided to let me know, shake her head. So
She's
total
in
tangent,
agreement.
but I look
She's in
down and she's
agreement.
like, yeah, she's looking at me like, okay, come on, we're in here.
Yeah, look, on your point, here's the thing. Technology allows us to have touches, right? Like even if you can't be hitting a person and grabbing lunch or whatever the case is, you absolutely can shoot them a text, tell them you're thinking of them.
Right.
Um, I think a good habit to get in is when you wake up, those first couple people you think of, if you'll text them, I think that's usually closest to
Nice.
your brain. I try to create that habit. And so almost always those first 1 or 2 people I think of, I send them a text that morning and say, hey, I'm thinking of you. And most of those, a lot of times those are friends, but I think you're right. Like he's just not that into you is true. If a person is not communicating with you in some form in these times, they probably, but I have to do a caution
That's that it
because
goes back to
I'm
that
not on
grace
social
though.
media. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I'm not on social
exactly.
media. If a person doesn't see me ever reach out or accept something, I have no idea if people have invitations to accept or whatever you do on Instagram. I don't know any of that stuff. And so hopefully nobody's judging saying, well, man, Joel must not like me. He hasn't accepted my invite. Well, you're in a happy crowd. I'm not accepting anybody's invites. I don't spend any time on social media at all.
Yeah. But I think, you have that, time period that you mentioned before, you've got to give grace, right?
Yeah.
So you may have somebody that's just going through a hard time in their life. And I've been there, I've had those hard times where I didn't want to talk to anybody. And people kept reaching out and reaching out and reaching out. And finally, when I was willing to come out of my cave,
Yeah.
then you start reconnecting with people. So I think that grace is there, but to that certain extent, I think we both know there's times where you kind of go, yeah, and you mentioned before, that's a relationship that it's not beneficial to me or beneficial to them because it's one-sided.
It's just a wave when we see each other, right? Like it's just a,
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that
we
either.
know exactly. We have tons of those, those exterior relationships of people who we care about. We just don't have the capacity or the time to probably keep that friendship alive. And quite frankly, I would say most of the time they're thinking the same thing. I saw an old friend at the theater the other night gave each other a hug. How you doing? Merry Christmas. And if we run into each other in the next 5 years, both of us will be fine with it. But so there are those, but then there are the ones we're talking about here that have to enrich our life. The thing I find about adult friends, Mindy has, I think, 6 or 7 girlfriends. They've been since high school, and they still do
Wow.
something once every couple months. That is so important in her life. And because she has that, I've thought, man, I have to do better at enriching my friendships. And because I see how much they mean to each other and the important part they play in her life. Because man, if you don't get those relationships, somebody young is listening to this and you're just leaning on your partner to be your friend, that's a lot of pressure on a
Yeah.
partner.
It very much is. And you have no idea, but I literally just finished the script for supporting the introvert in your life. And we're going to do an episode on that. And that is one of the things that we talk about in that episode will be, you have to be able to beyond just yourself. You've
Yeah.
got to be able to build those deeper relationships, even if it's just with a couple of people. You've got to have that.
Yeah. And even if you're doing it just because you love your partner, like they deserve to
Yeah.
not always have to be the person to buoy you up, to say, like, they get the chance to also be having hard times or want to be. I mean, you and I are lucky because I don't know if lucky is the right word. Both of us travel for business.
Mhm.
Distance does make the heart grow fonder. And so
Yeah.
a couple days away or a week away, I'm excited to be back with Min, but I know for certainty that she enjoys the independent time as well. And I do
Right.
too. I love reading a book in a hotel room every once in a while.
Yeah, Victoria and I were talking the other day, and she said, you're gone often enough that she gets used to that alone time. And then she goes, then you come home and it's just like, okay, wait a second. I'm like, we still have to have that alone
Yeah.
times. Just like you, I get to the hotel and you're like, okay, I just want to veg. I just want to
Yeah.
just relax. Right.
Yeah.
Or, or even at home, right. When I'm home at times. So,
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I'm famous for just, they find me in my bedroom in my rocking chair. Everybody's here and they're like, where's dad? And I'm just like, I'm just chilling, being quiet for a minute. And again, I do think that back to our conversation, good friends appreciate that about the other friend.
right.
Some people just aren't extroverts.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually that, that whole extrovert introvert thing is really a sliding scale. Right. We
Yeah.
need to be able to understand each other enough that we can, so-and-so might be a little bit more introvert, but we are connected, or this person's extrovert, but it's that sliding scale. We all have that different tolerances. We were just at a New Year's Eve party, a neighborhood New Year's Eve party. It was the, and anybody was at that party, please forgive me. It was the empty nester New Year's Eve party, right?
Yeah.
Nobody has kids at
The
home anymore.
reality.
Yeah, yeah. And it was probably about 11:15, 11:30. I had gotten my introvert. I
You're
was like,
ready
"Oh
to
my
be
gosh."
done. Yeah.
But we were having a ton of fun, but still that overstimulus. And I actually just did what I did is I just stepped away for a minute and sat on the stairs in this person's house around the corner and just give me 2 or 3 minutes. Okay.
Breathe it
Let's go
out.
back in there.
I feel you completely on that.
And so, but those kind of things, those situations, with friendships, these are a bunch of new friends and that we've never spent any time before.
Well,
And
that's cool.
Victoria and I went, oh my gosh, this is a really great bunch of people, right? There's
Yeah,
some
that's
really fun
really
people in
cool.
this group, but having those long-term, that's a new thing. So hopefully we can foster some of those and can turn into
Yeah,
long-term
I love
friendships.
that.
But on the flip side, having a friend for 15, 20, 25 years, that seems to be unusual on our time and day.
I agree. Yeah, and yet so nourishing to have somebody who you don't have to start again. Like you're building these friendships with these people at New Year's Day. You and I could sit down for lunch. We're just in the moment. We know each other's past and for the most part present. Yeah, I agree. I think it's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
You and I talked about it before. So, off of our conversation today, what is one thing that someone can do today to help build and deepen the connections that they have?
I'm going to be redundant, but I'm going to be redundant in a different way. So surely, without hesitation, somebody listening to this has allowed a friendship that means a lot to them slip away. And maybe it's because they weren't putting in their 50% of the friendship. Maybe it's because they said something to offend you. The chances are that person would deeply love to have that friendship in their life still. And So I would just say be thoughtful about giving grace to that person. Wipe the past away, wipe any feelings of resentment or hurt or anything you have in your life away and reach out to them. They may need you so badly. And
True.
for certain, they didn't want it to disappear. They were probably just going through a time where they didn't have the capacity to maintain it. And so I would just say offer grace. Think of one person and reach out to them and tell them that you love them. And because people are going through hard stuff, I have the opportunity to talk with a lot of people in my life, and people have hard stuff and they need more friends. They need probably less therapy and more friends. I do
Yeah.
believe 100% in therapy and seeing a therapist, but I think if people's support systems were bigger, those two as a combination can bring just about anybody
Has a
out of a
much
really
bigger
dark
impact.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Mark? I'm going to flip it. What
You're
would
going to
you
flip it
say
on me.
to your own question?
I think, and I'll use a specific example. 2-3 weeks ago, someone's name came to mind, and I reached out and I just sent that person a text. It was middle of the day. Hey, I'm just thinking about you. How are you doing? Just wanted to check in. And he called me immediately, which I didn't
Mm,
expect.
mm.
And he said, did you really just text me to ask how I'm doing and just to say hi? I'm like, yeah. He goes, no one does that. Now, I don't say that to pat myself on the back because I was shocked, right? But I look
Yeah,
at that and think the impact that it had for that one individual. And then he and I had an hour and a half conversation.
that's
I
awesome.
was driving, so we had plenty of time just to visit, right?
That's nice.
But I think the one thing that we can do, and it goes along with the lines of really what you were talking about earlier, is those first couple people you think of. But we all have throughout the day, there's times that someone will come to our mind. Now, it could be someone that I haven't talked to in a long time. It could be someone that I talk to all the time. But if that person comes to my mind, I tend to zip off a text. And Joel, you've received many texts that way.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
just
have.
thought I'd check and say hi, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that we are seen and acknowledged, especially in today's crazy world. So the one
Yeah.
thing for me is don't hesitate to even just send a text. Simple.
Just let them know.
Yeah.
Just let them know. A lot of people we think are fine are not fine. They're struggling. And that
Right.
text could just be a massive difference in their life. So send it. Don't not send it.
Right. Right. Take that as a inspiration or prompting or whatever you want to call it, and just
Yep.
say hi and hit send.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
well, Joel, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today and
I love it.
and
I
sharing
appreciate
your
what you're
insights.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you those that joined us today on KneeToKnee again. And like I say, we'll thank Joel for spending another
I love it.
time with us. We love having you on, Joel. You're
I
one
love
of my
being
favorite
here.
people on the planet. And I love that you're willing to come on and share
Same.
some time. So,
Yeah, same. Thank you, Mark.
and those of you, if you haven't done it yet, please like, subscribe. You know the deal. It actually helps us get the word out. We want to get the word out to more and more people with this kind of content to help. We're just trying to help and help people understand and help get better and build deeper connections in their lives. So if you can help us with that, that would be awesome. And watch for our coming episodes. We do have the Supporting Your Introvert episode coming out soon. And we have a ton of really cool conversations that we already have recorded that will get released. And 2026 is going to be a fun, amazing year. Hope everybody had a great holiday. And thanks again for joining in.
Thank
See you
you,
next
Mark.
time.